are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue, episode 224, and this feels good. Getting back into the swing of things. We took about a 3-month hiatus. Life has been
long
crazy.
enough, huh? It's been long enough.
It feels like an eternity since we've done one of these things. So much has happened. The Super Bowl happened. That was cool. Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champions. That might be the latest shout out you've heard about that.
First of all, also, we've gone a little radio silent on the social media platforms. Partially my bad on the one. But nonetheless, did anybody see probably the last post that was made on TikTok? I don't even know if it was the last post on ours. Did I not call it to the exactly what would happen?
That did happen.
I said Chiefs are going to struggle, but they're still going to get to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I said Purdy's good enough to get them there, but not good enough to win it.
That was preseason, by the way. You said that.
Preseason. We were doing our. It was like the final episode before the season started. We do our brackets. We weave our way through the AFC, NFC, and we get to a Super Bowl. And I called Chiefs over Niners. Brock Purdy would be good, but not good enough.
Yeah, and that's what happened. That's what we saw play out. Guys, it's been a while. It's been 3 months. So, we appreciate you stopping by. No matter how you're watching, listening to us. We are on, I believe, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Prime Video to watch the show. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and the iHeartRadio app. Now, I'm pretty sure we're still on all those platforms. I can guarantee you YouTube, I can guarantee you Spotify, and I can guarantee you Apple Podcasts. Outside of that, we'll see what happens, and we'll update you next week. But there are major platforms that you can find the show on. So we appreciate you sticking with us. We won't do that to you again without any warning or, plan of attack for how we're going to get back into things. But as Tim alluded to, life has been kind of crazy. We have since taken new jobs, graduated college. Tim moved, an hour away now? So, we are now finding our footing again and getting episodes recorded, getting things put back out to you. And obviously, this is something that we both love doing and really enjoy doing. And it's something that we want to carry on and continue into the NFL season, just as we always have, an episode a week. That's the goal. We are working on getting there and getting everything straightened out so that we can bring that to you. But for now, this is episode 224. We got a good one. We're going to start off with Tim's rant kind of on the state of the NFL, and then we're going to get into hits and misses to round out the first segment. Into the second segment, we will have our NFL offseason report cards. Going to go through some teams that were active during the offseason, during free agency, kind of give them a grade, give you some reasoning why, and kind of what you can expect to see coming into the 2024 regular season as we make our way to the draft. And then, of course, we will finish up with a little discussion at the end of the show on Russell Wilson and the Steelers and Justin Fields and all the moves that the Steelers have made. What can you expect in Pittsburgh? It's going to be a great time. Tim, take it away. Kick off episode 224, the revival episode.
It feels good to be back. Like you mentioned, right? Taking new jobs. Life's been a little bit crazy, both in sales now. So that's been a fun adventure considering prior to this job, I knew just about nothing about sales. So that's an interesting thing to pivot to, but it's been great. Again, learning on the fly, crazy, been fun. But it feels good to be back. And this is something I've done kind of, not at least obviously the podcast, something we've done for two and a half years now?
3 years, yeah.
3 years now, right? But sports in general is just something I've always known. It's something I've been comfortable with, no matter where I've been in my life, whether it's on a playground, whether it's in high school, and now, we're 22, 23 years old at the bar. It's always been something that it's easy for me to talk about with friends, family, even the drunk uncle who barely knows his own name. You can still talk about sports, quarterbacks, whatever the case may be. So it's always been something that's come natural and been a real passion of mine. So it feels good to be back doing it in a more standardized platform, still getting the footing under me. Clearly can barely talk. But we'll actually make a little bit of a pivot on what the rant's on today. We're actually going to pivot to a little bit of draft, right? The draft is big coming up. And I hear this debate, well, let's start with this. I think Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 pick. I think anybody with their brain and their head screwed on in the right spot is well aware that Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 pick. I got into some spats on TikTok with some people saying, well, you better watch out. Maybe they'll trade the pick. Maybe Justin Fields is the guy. Well, I'll take my mini victory lap there. We won't even include that in hits and misses. I'll take the victory lap on that now, saying Justin Fields' time in Chicago is clearly over. He's now a Pittsburgh Steeler, which that is a whole other can of worms. We'll get into that down the road. But Caleb Williams obviously will be the next quarterback of the Chicago Bears, barring one of the most wild 360 turns we've ever seen. Well, I guess it would be 180, because 360 would just be in the same direction, right?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go 180, sorry. Unless the most crazy 180 happens in draft history, Caleb Williams will be the future quarterback of the Chicago Bears. So that begs the question, who's number 2 then, right? Because going into this past college football season, it's been Caleb Williams number 1, Drake May a solid number 2, and then just everybody else 3 through 10, we'll call it. Right, Drake May's big, moves, right, can throw on the run. Very similar to what we've seen working in the NFL. Your Mahomes, your Josh Allen, Herbert, even Burrow to an extent within the pocket can maneuver it, extend plays, make plays outside of the general structure. We see that that's been working in the NFL, right? And that's been Drake May's thing. And so he's been that number 2 quarterback behind Caleb Williams for most of the time, and we've seen this in the draft process before, when you have 2 guys that are, or even whether it's 1 guy, 2 guys, 3 guys, that are cemented at the top, and we've known it for so long, we start to nitpick closer to the draft. Do you guys remember when Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, that draft class, right? You were hearing before the draft, Zach Wilson's pro day was really good. He made that throw against air with no pads on, rolling to his left. Great throw across his body, 50 yards down. He could compete with Trevor Lawrence for the number 1 pick and could be a better NFL quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. That was an absolute fallacy. That was a joke of a take, and I said it at the time, and I'll say it again here, although I think much less of a joke. I do think Jaden Daniels is a good quarterback, and depending on where he lands in the NFL, could really succeed. I think Caleb Williams is the one guy where it doesn't really matter where he goes. I think he's going to have some level of success. For pretty much everybody else, I think it depends where you land. Who's your offensive coordinator? Who's protecting you up front? Who are you throwing to? Is the organization stable, right? I think that we're doing it again with Drake May. He's 6'4.5", 250, can move, can throw on the run, has a laser arm. Is it a little inconsistent? Sure. But I don't need Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes to complete 72% of it. I don't need them to be Kirk Cousins' accuracy. I don't need them to be that level of consistent from the pocket. When you get the wow, I don't need all that. And so you're starting to hear, well, hey, Jaden Daniels is actually a much better prospect than Drake May. And I think that is, I'll stamp my case now. This is the opinion business. I think that's the incorrect opinion. I think I'll take the other side of that. I think Drake May is a much better prospect. And I think at the end of the day, and Sean Payton didn't back me up personally, right? But I guess I'll take a page from Sean Payton's book. He said this before, and I tend to agree and be in the same camp in that level of thought and that train of thought, is that within the first round, especially your top, we'll call it 10 to 15 picks, you're drafting prototypes, right? You're drafting guys based on their ceiling, based on what they can be, based on, do we see this person, this player, being a Pro Bowler, being an All-Pro, being somebody that can compete in the wild quarterback market that's out there right now with the Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, etc. We could go down the line, right? And I think Drake May is that guy. I think Drake May is absolutely a better prospect than Jaden Daniels. Is Jaden going to be good? Probably. It depends on where he lands. Same thing with, like I said, almost everybody in this class. But I think if you're drafting for prototype, which you should be, and which a lot of the great drafters have been throughout the history of the NFL, that's what you need to go with. I think Drake May is absolutely the guy. I'll stamp my opinion now. Again, this is the opinion business. This is why you guys come here. If you want the same, cookie cutter vanilla things, go look at the standings, right? Go look at, your PFF grades. Sure, I'll reference PFF every now and then, but it's all in the context of opinions. This is the opinion business. And I'm putting my opinion and my stake down now. I think Drake May is a better prospect than Jaden Daniels. Might I lose on that take first year? Sure. What if Jaden slips to the Vikings? What if the Vikings trade up with the Chargers to number 5? We see Drake go number 2. We see New England take Marvin Harrison. We see Arizona take a tackle. Or we see, whatever happens in the first 4 picks. And Jaden's there at 5, and the Vikings trip to 5, take Jaden Daniels. Will I probably look wrong for the first year or 2, maybe even 3? Sure, it's definitely a possibility because there's much better, more stability, more talent, a better, what I think is a more clever offensive coach in Minnesota. Sure, that's absolutely possible. I think long-term, Drake May has the chance to be a much better quarterback, a much better, bigger, stronger, more longevity-driven quarterback due to his, massive physical skills, right? Big, strong moves, all that, right? More durable. I think in the long run, he ends up being a better quarterback. And I think right now he's a better prospect. Again, based on all those things, you're drafting for prototype. He is the prototypical, absolute cookie-cutter, prototypical quarterback for the 2024-2025 NFL, right? He is what you're looking for. Big, strong moves, extends plays, right? All of that. He is absolutely that guy. I will stamp my claws right now, Drake May over Jaden Daniels.
Okay, fair enough. The quarterback market, I guess, in the draft is quite interesting. I know we have some differing opinions on Caleb Williams as a whole.
Yeah, you're not big on Caleb Williams.
I am not. And yeah, it does come down to, and this is a discussion for another time, a debate. But just my piece on I like Drake May probably more than Caleb Williams.
Would you say he's your number 1 quarterback on the board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you at least put Caleb 2?
I would put Caleb.
Okay.
Talent-wise, is Caleb 1 or 2? Absolutely. But I think there's other things that go along with being quarterback in the NFL. And I'm not saying that, I kind of am saying. But, look, if you're... I understand that times are changing, but if you are a grown man and you're painting your nails, you're dyeing your hair pink, you're painting your nails pink, having a pink bedazzled phone case while you're sitting courtside at an NBA game, and
I think it was college basketball, but I don't know. Whatever
it is. Listen, there is nothing. The NFL is full of alpha males. Do you think a locker room full of alpha males who are completely committed, the most tough, hard-nosed, gritty people you will ever meet are going to follow that guy?
So now this is where I push you and I challenge you. Make your case. Let's go. Like don't pull punches. You don't have to go out and, you don't have to be rude about it. You think he's soft. I think that's a nice way of putting it where you still get your point across. Do you think he's soft?
Soft, and I think out of touch with what the NFL is. The NFL is tough. The NFL does not cater to people that paint their nails pink.
Okay, I'm holding you to that. I'm absolutely holding you to that because I'm in the other camp where, sure, are there some softer qualities about him? Sure. But I think he is so good, I don't think it's going to matter.
This league is built and run by hard men.
Okay. I'm very interested. I'm very interested to see how this develops for us.
Okay.
I am on the other side where I think there's some truth to what you're saying.
I think Caleb Williams
I don't think it's going to matter because I think on the field he is a very tough football player when he steps between those white lines, and I'm sure in the locker room he does enough to command respect from his teammates, and he is tough between the white lines. I can tell you that for a fact.
Well, we'll see. See how that pans out.
We will see.
Either way, let's go. Hits and misses. We got 3 hits, 3 misses. First one back in a while. This should feel good.
All right, hit number 1. I said it when I happened, and don't get me wrong. I think it's worked out over, I think it's made a more entertaining product for the MLB. But I did say, concern with the pitch clock is pitcher injuries. You're asking these people to do repeated effort, 100% over and over and over again with improper time to rest and recover.
Zero rest.
Right. And that's, my background, a little sidebar here, obviously in sales now, but my background is exercise science. So I'm familiar with the strain on the body that a max effort, any movement at max effort can do to a body repeatedly over and over and over and over again without given proper rest time, right? It's going to deteriorate your body, especially if you're not, at absolute peak, recovery, if you're not in the tub and in the sauna and doing the compression and the stim and all that, right? Mm-hmm. It can take a toll on people's bodies, and I think we're seeing that in the MLB. Now, granted, I also think there's some truth to the fact that there's never been a higher emphasis on velocity and spin rate, which is causing extra torque on the elbows. So I think it's a perfect storm of there's never been a higher emphasis on the intensity of spin rate and torque on the elbow, and the fact that you're not giving them enough time to recover. I think it's a perfect storm I don't know. What's your take on that?
This is something that we talked about when they were rolling out the pitch clock. We had a discussion about it, a year and a half, 2 years ago, probably?
Exactly.
And we pointed to the stat that in the minors, injuries among pitchers were up 38. Arm injuries.
Was it 38%?
38%.
Why do I remember that stat for some reason?
Because we argued with somebody about it, because somebody commented on the video saying, where are your stats, where are your sources backing up the fact that people get injured? So we looked it up and we literally posted the stat.
Can we tag that guy in this video?
I would love to, but that was so long ago. I don't know if we'd be able to find it because of the influx of thousands of comments that we've gotten before then, or between then. Either way, it doesn't matter. The thing is, injuries are up. We said it was going to happen, and nobody listened. It's just when you.
It's a major concern. I'm going to say it.
Pick any movement from any sport, ask them to replicate it that quick with zero rest, and you are going to see injuries skyrocket.
So, but here's the main problem: is we can sit here and discuss about the issue all day long. What's the solution? And I don't have a good solution for it. Because now that everybody else is worried about spin rate, velocity, it's like, so what are you supposed to do as a pitcher? Become Mark Burley and just get shelled? Like, what's the solution? I don't have a good one, if we're being honest.
I don't think there is one.
Yeah, I don't think there is. Bring spider tack back, maybe? Allow some sort of substance? Look, batters can use pine tar and rosin and Evo shields and batting gloves and grips on the bat and, different weighted bats. It's like, pitch, like, here's a ball, pig, go throw it. It's like, all right, I don't get any help. I don't get nothing.
We're one episode back into this thing, and I've already thought of like 3 more discussions that we could have, which is fantastic for later episodes. So cool. That's one added to the list.
Beautiful. Miss number 1 here, Justin Fields. So now this isn't, I don't know how much of a miss this is, because technically I was right. The fact that Justin Fields is not the franchise quarterback of the Chicago Bears. I said it 1,000 times, and I'll stand on that. But he's now on my team. So what do you do about that, right? I don't know exactly. And because maybe this is a miss because I've kind of flipped my thinking in the fact that I do have a little bit of hope that with a good organization and a really stable organization, he's got a ton of talent. I've never denied that he has a ton of talent. I just don't think he has the requisite consistency and the ability to throw from the pocket with the consistent touch, leverage, making the correct reads, processing quick enough. That's always been my problem. I think he has the arm talent, the leg talent, right? He's a big, strong, mobile athlete. Like, he has a lot of redeemable qualities.
Yeah.
He just hasn't been able to replicate it in a game situation consistently enough.
See, I see this through 2 different lenses. One, we have to stay consistent to what our take was on Justin Fields and what we saw from the season. Because what we saw is proof. It's evidence. It's live. You can see it. It's tangible. You can break it down play by play. So you have to keep that in mind.
Quantifiable.
It is quantifiable. And you can't get too high on the fact where, well, he's on my team now, so we have to have a little bit of a different outlook or like a different perspective where, Justin Fields might be good. I see the argument to keep him where he has been in our heads. But here's my take on the thing. You have Patrick Mahomes.
Sure.
The iPhone 15.
Sure.
And you have Justin Fields, the iPhone 5.
Okay.
Now, the iPhone 5 isn't a bad phone, but when compared to the iPhone 15, it can't do near the amount of things it can do.
Okay.
But from the Pittsburgh perspective, and from being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, when you go from a Nokia flip phone in Kenny Pickett to the iPhone 5, it looks a lot better, and the outlook in Pittsburgh is better. But comparatively to the league and to the uber amounts of talent, I think it's a little bit lacking in Justin Fields. Is that good?
I think that's a fair, yeah. I think the only hole I see in the metaphor or the analogy is that I do think Justin Fields has a talent to be maybe not an iPhone 15, but could he be an iPhone 13?
Just an upgrade.
You know what I mean? Like, I think he can get better still.
Can you go to the Verizon store and train him in? Yes, you can.
Can he sit behind Russ for a little bit? Can he slow grow in Pittsburgh a little bit, and then next year, 2 years down the line, can he be better than he was in Chicago? Sure, I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put my money on that, but I think it's possible. There's at least hope.
I agree. There is way more hope with the Justin Fields than there is at Kenny Pickett.
Good. Wow. What a segue. Hit number 2 here. Kenny Pickett's tenure done in Pittsburgh, traded to the Philadelphia Eagles for, like, I don't know, a bag of Doritos and, a seasoned supply of Pepsi like they did in in Moneyball or something. You know, like
we'll stock your vending machines.
It was like
for
a
year.
fifth or something.
Yeah,
a fifth or a sixth, fourth, fifth, sixth, something like that. It was like a pick swap. Yeah, it's nothing major, the Kenny Pickett trade. But we did say, and especially I was a big non-Kenny Pickett supporter, I said, look, this isn't working. Get the pivot off of it, right? Like, we haven't seen anything in, how many starts? 20-something starts? 26 starts, I think, to say that he's an NFL quarterback. We haven't seen a thing. He's got 13 touchdowns in 26 games. Like, give me a break.
Right.
Like, we haven't seen, at least with Justin Fields, we've seen flashes of being really good.
And special.
Absolutely. For all my misgivings about Justin Fields, I have seen flashes that he could be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. With Kenny Pickett, I haven't seen flashes that he could be a top 25 quarterback in the NFL.
And that shit crashed and burned with Kenny Pickett. It
Absolutely.
got ugly towards the end.
Absolutely. I like the move for them to move off him, and good for him. He gets a fresh start and moves back closer to home. I don't think he'll play, but nonetheless. Miss number 2 here, year one of Kyle Dubas has been underwhelming. We expected it to be a lot better than it was. He's a young, progressive GM willing to make the tough moves that the old regime wouldn't. Move off players with some loyalty, right? Well, we thought he may move off them, but he did move off like a Schultz. Like, he moved off guys that Pittsburgh liked. But he held on to a lot of people that we like as well. But we thought he was going to be able to kind of bridge that gap between an older Sid, Malkin, Letang, Carlson core, and bridge that gap and start to rebuild moving forward around those four, and it just really hasn't worked out. Now, granted, it's 1 year, so I'm not saying it's an absolute failure yet, but to say it's been underwhelming, I think is on par. I think that's a very allowable statement.
Yes, I was going to say, to be fair, you have to give him more than one season. It takes a while to bring change, especially in a league like the NHL, which has been progressively moving forward.
Yeah.
And people have not really been talking about the fact, but NHL ratings are up. Like, that league is getting more and more competitive.
Yeah.
You have to have those genius minds, the same that you see in football, the same that you see in basketball or in the MLB. You have to have those progressive minds that are constantly moving forward. I'm just not as impressed as I thought that I was going to be at this point. Right?
That's a fair criticism.
A new president gets in, you judge him off his first 100 days. Obviously has a lot more than 100 days in office.
Yeah. But
judging off of Dubas's first 100 days for metaphorical references,
hasn't been great.
Not impressed.
Not impressed.
Not
That's
impressed.
Fair. Hit number 3 here. NBA just continues to take a beating. The NFL decided, you guys usually do Christmas. Go pound sand.
We own that day.
Yeah, we're going to take that day. And the NBA is just going to let it happen because they don't have any ground to stand on. Because it's a league where I bet on the Lakers the other night, and LeBron was getting a little sniff. It's a must-win game. LeBron's getting a little sniffly, and Anthony Davis took an elbow next to his head, so he's going to have to sit out the rest of the game. And of course, I lose the bet on the Lakers. I don't even know why I ever bet NBA to begin with, but you get my point. It's a soft league. It's a soft league. It's a soft league.
Miss number 1.
Yeah. Hit number 3 has been just the NBA in general. We've always been on the side that the NBA is going to get steamrolled by the NFL, and that's held true.
Yeah, we've seen that happen
since we've
time
been
and
going.
time again.
Absolutely. Miss number 3 here, the Bills. Now, granted, I never thought the Bills were in the same caliber as the Chiefs. Now, granted, on any given day, can they be? Absolutely. But in terms of the whole organization, the past 5 years, I don't think they've ever been on that caliber. But I thought that they would be legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And to say that they were over the Stephon Diggs era of those 4 years, I think that would be misleading. I don't think at any given time we could say that they were always in the hunt. But then you look at the facts, and they were never an actual real Super Bowl contender.
Hindsight being 2020, you're right. But in the moment, they seemed like it.
Yes, but now we have the facts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. Looking back, Monday morning quarterbacking it, yes, they have never been Super Bowl contenders.
Yes, absolutely. Like, their best achievement is that they almost beat the Chiefs. Like, that's not a real thing.
Well, and I also think the argument is to be made that Josh Allen is kind of wasting away in Buffalo at this point. Yeah. Like, you take Josh Allen and you put him on the Chargers team from 2 or 3 years ago, and that's a legitimate team. You take Josh Allen and you put him on, I don't know, the 49ers.
So that is a Super Bowl
team.
It's a Super Bowl winning team.
So, I mean, there is something to be said in, is he in the wrong place? Is his talent being wasted? I think it is. Because
that's an interesting
point. The problem is not Josh Allen. The problem is the ownership. The problem is the coaching. The problem is, all the supporting cast, the diva receivers. Like, that's the problem. The problem is not Josh Allen.
Okay, no,
and you know that.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, but also at some point, you have to stop turning the ball over like you did your first season. I'm not saying he's the problem, but he has to be more of a solution as well.
Yes, but he's not the glaring issue. I think they have a Super Bowl if they have more of a, I don't know, hands-on ownership group or coaching. There are things that could be improved on that team outside of Josh Allen that would make that a more competitive Super Bowl competing team. I'm not going to say winning, but competing.
Sure, I can see that, yeah. I just think when I see, and now people may mock me for this, but when I see, now this is a long time ago, but 4 years, or 5 years ago now, his first season in the playoffs, when he gets so panicked he laterals a ball backwards while he's getting tackled, I can't unsee it because that was his problem then, and he's shown no propensity to fix it yet.
Yeah.
Like, he's gotten better at his strengths. He has not improved his weaknesses. He still turns the ball over at a disgusting clip.
He gets overwhelmed.
Yes. He still turns the ball over at a disgusting clip. So you're right. He is not the problem. I think he can do more to be the solution.
Do you think his talent's wasting away? Quick one answer.
No.
You don't think it's wasting away in Buffalo?
No, because I don't think he has maximized his full potential on his own. Because you're telling me if he's put in the pantheon of Mahomes and Burrow, he now has a level playing field with Mahomes. No number one receiver, good tight ends, good enough ownership group, good enough coaching staff. He is now in the same boat as Mahomes. We're going to see how it looks.
It's going to be interesting. Guys, that was the first hits and misses back. That felt good.
It felt really good. It felt really good.
We are going to be moving into the second segment now. Don't go anywhere. On the other side of the break, we're going to have our NFL offseason report cards, 8 NFL teams, 8 grades on how they've done so far. And then we're going to get into Russ, the Steelers, Justin Fields, the whole shebang in Pittsburgh that we've seen take place this offseason. So don't go anywhere. Not going to want to miss it. Segment 2 coming up next.
Welcome in. First episode back in a while. What are we at? Like 240 something or 420 something or 224? Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the clarity there. Good to be back. If you missed the first segment, we had a little long intro letting you know, we're back, why we missed, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. Go back and listen. I got into a little bit of Drake May versus Jaden Daniels, stamping my case as a Drake May guy over Jaden Daniels. We got into some hits and misses. This segment we'll get into the report card. We got 8 teams that we think are interesting, either, improved a lot, didn't improve as much, lost some guys. So we got 8 teams that we'll go over, giving them some grades, A-, A+, B-, you get the point. And then we'll get into the Steelers, a comprehensive report, a parent-teacher conference, if you will, to keep with the school analogy. We'll dive more into the Steelers, being that we are in Pittsburgh and from Pittsburgh, and that is, kind of our team, as you can see here, open your eyes. But, so we'll dive more into that. But either way, no matter how you're here, no matter how you're listening, we appreciate you doing so. YouTube, Spotify, you know the drill. If you have found us, you know where you can find us. Send it to a friend, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Love that. It's been a great episode back so far. Like you said, sometimes you need to take some time away, step back a little bit, look at the picture, and then get back into it. Revitalized. We got a ton of ideas, and it's only going to get better.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as some may say.
Some do say that.
Does anybody still say that?
I think you might have been the first person since about 2012 to say that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm taking that. I'm going to adopt that as my new theme.
Okay. Either way, we have the NFL offseason grades to get to you. So we have 8 NFL teams. We're going to go through how they did in the offseason free agency. Did we like the signings? Did they lose too many pieces? Here we go.
Let's go ahead and start with the Atlanta Falcons. So I would argue that they had a very good offseason and that it's an A-. I don't think it's an A+, because while Kirk Cousins is a very solid NFL quarterback, let's not act like he went out and, acquired a top 5, 10, 5 to 7 quarterback. I'd put Kirk anywhere between 9 and 14 in the league, probably. So he's a good B+ quarterback. So I would say that move is a really good upgrade. You go out and you get Darnell Mooney. You trade Desmond Ridder, who was clearly awful, for Rondale Moore, who's a solid 3 to 4 receiver. So I think they made a lot of solid, nothing too flashy besides the Kirk move. Just a lot of solid moves to bolster the team. They're going to be a really good offense. And here's another thing you have to factor in, is that the division's bad. Right? Like, is this enough to win that division? I think absolutely it is.
I think could be. I also think it hinges solely on Kirk. Like you said, like he's a 9 to a 13 in the league quarterback. Well, that's 9 on his best year. Like, he's not a Super Bowl guy.
No, yeah, but he's really good.
He's really good.
Yeah, if Kirk was amazing, this would be an A+.
So
but he's really good, so it's an A-.
To you, is this kind of a... almost like, we'll pass? Like, are you going to go draft anybody this year? Are you going to go draft the next special quarterback that you're going to win a Super Bowl with? Or are you going to take on Kirk Cousins, who's going to win you games, who's going to maybe get you to a playoff game? Well, if you win the division, you'll be in a playoff game, and you just call that good enough? Is this like just a pat to the hole, get on with it, string it along, and hope for better in the future? But or like, why are you not swinging at this draft?
Because I think there's also something to be said for the fact that, hey, we see that we're not in the best division. Why don't we go for the next 4 years, go win 3 division titles and host 3 playoff games minimum? Like there's great value in that in the NFL, I think, for a team that has been almost irrelevant for the last 2 decades. Outside of that 1 year when Matt Ryan was really good, they went to the Super Bowl, obviously blew a massive lead. They've been irrelevant for 20 years outside of that season. So, like, there's a lot to be said for, hey, they're going to win double-digit games. They're going to host a playoff game probably 3 out of the next 4 years as long as Kirk stays healthy and upright. And they're going to be really interesting. They're going to be fun to watch. There's value in putting out a good winning product, whether that means that you're the 10th best team or the number 1 team, right? Like, there's good value in that.
Fair. I just want to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Texans, I'd put it a B+. Yeah, I think they didn't make any massive moves, and now you might be like, oh, the Stephon Diggs move, that's pretty massive. Yeah, but I think the move just to get Diggs in and of itself is like a B to B+ move, right? Probably a B move.
I think situationally it's more. I think we've seen what happens. What happened when you added Jamar Chase to a Bengals offense with Joe Burrow?
You saw Joe Burrow get a lot better.
You get your quarterback, and I know for a fact C.J. Stroud is that guy in Houston. Like, that's not debatable. That's your quarterback of the future.
Absolutely.
Now you go get him his tier 1 weapon, Stephon Diggs. Please welcome.
Yeah, I do think now. Now I'm second guessing. Is it an A-? We'll keep it at a B+ for now. But I really commend the effort for taking a big swing. I love that they restructured the Diggs deal so they can get out of it after this year. Right, it's done after this year. If you really love him, cool, you pay him. But he's like 32 now. So like I would argue you shouldn't pay him a long-term contract at this point in his career. He's been on a steady decline for 2 years now, and he has shown to be a little bit noisy after 3-4 years in the same spot. So I like what they did with the Diggs. Nothing too flashy. I think if they would have added more, I think they need more offensive line depth. Yeah. I think they need more defensive line depth, and we see a lot of games won and lost in the trenches, so I think that's something to look for. But overall, really solid offseason, B+.
Yeah, the deal with Diggs just shows you the reservations that they have about him. Like, if they were completely sold on Stephon Diggs, they would not have made it a 1-year deal, and they would have not totally have structured it to, if this parachute becomes a knapsack, we're getting the hell out of this ASAP.
Doesn't it kind of tell you, though, that they're like, oh, is Houston like kind of smartly run now? Like I think that's what a smart organization would do, is say, Diva wide receiver, let's make sure that we can get out of that. Like, you're right. Historically, and over the last even 5 years, they've been a mess. But over the last 2, they've been really good.
Fair.
Like D'Amico Ryan, C.J. Stroud, ton of really good moves last year, like a Dalton Schultz. Got a couple guys in the back end that are good B to B+ players. And now they made another smart decision this year. It's like,
they show flashes.
They've been good for the last 2 years. Let's see if they can keep building on it. Cowboys, D-. I mean, just atrocious.
Abysmal.
And so, first of all, the lack of activity is sad. But what's even sadder is the reasoning behind the lack of activity is that they are staring down the barrel of a gun that they may have to pay Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, and Dak Prescott exorbitant amounts of money that'll take up over 70% of their cap. That's ridiculous. There's a world where you pay Dak $60 million, CeeDee Lamb $30 million, and Micah Parsons $30 million. What's that, $150 million of a $255 million cap?
$120 million if you did that. If you did 60, 30, and 30, that'd be $120 million.
Oh my God, I'm so stupid. Okay, so you're going to pay them 50% of your cap, 3 players.
Yeah, that's insane.
There's a world where that's realistic. And so they're staring down the barrel of this gun, so they can't go out and sign a bunch of players. But then you think, are we 100% sure that we want those 3 guys and we actually want to pay them that type of money? And the reason it's been a D- is because you've heard rumblings that if Micah was out of the building, people would be happy. You got Jerry saying they're all in. Meanwhile, their linebackers all out. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? You have no running back. You just lost Tyron Smith, which, granted, Tyron Smith's on the back end of his career, but it's like, he's been good for you, right? Who do you have to replace him? Tyler Smith, but who's there to replace Tyler Smith? Like, there is a ton of moving parts. There's more questions than answers, and there's more noise. I don't even know then what, but there's too much noise, and we know that noise in the offseason is not good for NFL franchises.
Well, they're a joke of a franchise right now. Somebody that's supposed to be a contender.
I don't know if I'd go joke, but they are not
always in it.
Yes, they're not always in it. That's for sure.
We are watching the Texans, who are in their own damn state, make better decisions than the coveted Dallas Cowboys
by a long shot.
Like, when the Texans are outperforming you, that's how you know you have a problem.
So you got to look in the mirror. Chargers, let's go B-. Let's start with all the negatives. Keenan Allen's gone. Mike Williams is gone. Austin Eckler's gone. Corey Linsley, the center you signed a bunch of money to a couple years ago, is like retiring because he can't stay healthy. You have a good left tackle, but other than that, the offensive line is fairly weak. Your defensive line is really weak. You had to let go of a couple guys on the back end. You're decent in your linebacking, and especially outside linebacking duo with Mack and Bosa. But it's a team that had to hemorrhage a ton of talent due to, one, Justin Herbert's cap going up because that new contract's kicking in, and two, because Harbaugh said, you know what, I'm going to kind of redo this team in my eye and kind of fit it to what I want to do. And so for a year, you may see a step down. But so all of that said, you're looking at probably a D plus to a C minus.
Yeah.
But because of how good of a coach Harbaugh is and how good I think they're going to be throughout this draft process and how they're going to get impact players day one, on day one they're going to be impact players the day one in the league, but they're going to get them on day one, day two, day three. They're going to find guys all through this draft. I think it's a B minus for the Chargers. I do.
Okay, I 100% agree with that. One, I just love the coaching move. Right, like you had to. Brandon Staley was the limiting reactant in that experiment. Like he was the problem.
Out here.
Yeah, he was the problem. So you replace that, you get somebody that I think is otherworldly smarter, can scheme up way better of an offense, and just a team in general, and just a great
culture
leader.
builder. Yeah, great
leader, culture. Those are the things that you associate with a Jim Harbaugh. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think the Chargers are going to be really good, but I do think this will be one of the takes that you're going to look at for a year and a half and say, it's getting there.
Yeah.
And then I think in 2 years, 2.5 years from now, you're like, that was the right decision.
I still think they're going to be.
They were right all along.
They're going to be competitive this year.
They're going to be competitive,
7-8 wins,
but they're not going to compete for any sort of playoff win. And I don't think that. I think they'll compete for a playoff spot, but I don't think that they win a game.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
And I think next year you make more moves in the offseason. You have another draft under Harbaugh's belt. I mean, he's been there for like 15 minutes. You got to give the guy some time.
That's fair. Let's go with the Bills, the other side of that Texans trade. I'll give it a D plus. I mean, they hemorrhaged talent. Diggs is gone. Tre'Davious White's gone. Your safeties are gone. Gabe Davis is gone. So now you're just going to have to go 12 personnel, Kincaid, Dawson Knox, and whoever the hell your receiver is. I mean, I also don't love the Diggs before the draft trade because now everybody knows exactly what you're going to have to draft. So anybody that's behind you that wants a receiver knows that they can jump you and they're going to have to jump you if they want to get that receiver. So now you have a target on your back for the receiver market in the draft. So I don't love that move. I don't love the timing of that move. And it's all because Josh Allen's cap hit's going up. And I've been a Josh Allen guy. I'm not saying that he can't do it. But we're going to see this year if he can actually put a team on his back. We've said he's been a trailer all along. This is where he's going to prove, is he a true trailer? Can he be a real top 5 quarterback with minimal talent around him? We're going to find out.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown flashes of carrying the team. The games where he has 25 rushes along with 60 dropbacks and attempts, right? Like, you see those games from Josh Allen for sure. But one, they're not very successful when that happens, and two, things kind of go off the rails when Josh Allen's asked to do too much. He throws a lot of picks. He fumbles the ball. He just, plain and simple, does not treat the ball well. I think there's a lot of problems in Buffalo. I don't think you can attribute them all to Josh Allen. I think his cap hit going up is going to be extremely detrimental to the entire process.
Well, right. See, now, right now, I do think people are like, oh, that's a 6-win team. I still think they're going to win 9-10 games. Like, I still think they're going to be good. But I don't think that they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I think that window has shut for right now. I don't think that they can legitimately compete with the Chiefs, the Bengals, and maybe even the Texans in the AFC.
Well, I think you also have to have receivers. We just saw the experiment. They literally did it this last year. The Chiefs, although they won a Super Bowl, their receiving all season long was atrocious. And it became quite evident that without true number 1, number 2, and number 3 receivers, without the whole plethora of them all, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is, you're still going to struggle in that area. Patrick Mahomes, just because he's Patrick Mahomes, did not make their receiving core look great.
No, they still won, but that defense was really good. The defense
won it.
Point.
We're going to see that now with Buffalo and the fact that Josh Allen has nobody to throw to. Okay, Gabe Davis? Okay.
No, he's gone.
Oh, that's right.
He's in Jacksonville. Yeah,
everybody's gone.
Yeah, top 2 receivers gone. Let's go to the Bears. I'd give it a B+, and now I'm also factoring in they're going to get Caleb Williams, but then you get Keenan Allen, you get DeAndre Swift, you re-sign Jalen Johnson, who's a top 5 corner. You go get Shane Waldron as the OC, which I don't think it's a great OC, but he's certainly an upgrade. He's a really strong OC, let's put it that way. I think B+ is fair, and Vegas is telling you exactly what they think. Their over-under is set at 8.5. Justin Fields won 10 games in 3 years. They're telling you right now they think Caleb Williams could possibly win almost as many games as Justin Fields did in 3 years. They're telling you exactly what they think of it.
Yeah. And it's
B+.
Quite upsetting, too. This team is just never going to get better, it seems like. They are stuck
in
purgatory for it. No, not soon.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. I'm on the other end of that. So, Jets, I'll give it a C+. I think when the bugaboo of your team, when the issue with your team last year was that you had an old aging quarterback behind an offensive line that's not very good, and he gets hurt, and the main issue of your entire season was injuries, I don't think the proper solution is to go out and get a 38-year-old tackle and a 36-year-old tackle, both of who had injury problems in the last couple of years. I don't think that's a legitimate solution. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't view that as a true upgrade over what they have. In a one-game scenario, sure. Over the course of a 17-game season, I don't understand the move. I'm out of word. Mike Williams as well, another injury-plagued player. It's like, I don't think the solution was to go get more injury-plagued players.
No, it's bleak. It's a bleak outlook.
I'll give it a C+ because if by some shred of hope they all stay healthy for 17 weeks, they are good productive players. But that's a massive if that hasn't happened in like 5 years. So
yeah, we've seen no stats from that.
No. Let's go with the Steelers, and this will be a perfect pivot into our discussion about them. I'll give them an A- purely because you went from paying like $10 million to your quarterback room consisting of Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph, and you now pay like 5, so about half of what you did for Justin Fields and Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think about those quarterbacks, to take a 50% pay cut and get 150% better in the quarterback room is a massive upgrade, and an upgrade of fantastic proportions. That is a financially smart thing to do and a football smart thing to do. And just for that position alone, I give it an A-. I also like getting rid of Deontay Johnson as well.
I love that. It's something to be studied. I mean, people should... It doesn't happen every day where you watch an NFL franchise completely just win on both ends of the spectrum. They didn't have to give up anything. Like, the opportunity cost here is so, like, little. The opportunity cost is... What if Kenny Pickett pops and becomes like some all-pro quarterback? Which, let's be real, that's never going to happen. So The Steelers are in a much better spot today than they were at the end of the season. They're in a much better spot today than they were at the start of last season. I think overall they made significant upgrades at a lot of very needed positions.
I would agree.
I think getting rid of deadweight like Deontay, I think you can go find any other receiver from the MAC in the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th round of the draft. They can be, elusive like Deontay. They can have probably better hands than Deontay. Don't forget how many balls Deontay's dropped. And show actual effort.
I think that's a fair point. That's a fair point. This is actually a perfect pivot to go ahead and get into the Steelers, kind of updates, discussion, like what's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going into the draft here next Thursday, so basically a week from when this episode releases.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and talk. I'm going to give you on the spot. We didn't prepare this. I literally just wrote it down. You saw me writing. You saw me writing. They saw me writing.
Yes,
I saw me writing. Everybody saw me writing. 4 positions, and we're going to rank. I want you to rank them in the order of priority with the first round pick.
Okay.
So what is your priority with the first round pick? Because, depending on who goes, before you, who trades up, all this,
Right.
your draft board could change a little bit. Okay, center, wide receiver, offensive tackle, cornerback, 1 through 4.
I think the first thing you need to address is the center.
Okay.
I think center's number 1.
I would agree.
I think then you move to... You go center, offensive tackle, wide receiver, corner.
Oh, see, like I would. So we agree on the start. I could not agree more, or I could not agree less on the rest of it. I would go center. I think DB is absolutely number 2. I think you need to find somebody that can freaking cover somebody on the back end. If I have to watch somebody that plays similar to Patrick Peterson again next year, I'm gonna pull my freaking hair out. Like, it's unbelievable. I can't do it.
You got Dante Jackson.
No, absolutely. He's a good slot. If he plays out wide, I'm gonna punch somebody in the head. So I'll go center number 1. I got to go DB 2. I have to do it. And here's the thing. This is what bothers me about Pittsburgh, is that they have had horrific defensive back play, safety aside. So I guess horrific cornerback play for every single season I can ever remember in my life, yet dedicate almost nothing to it. Almost not. Ryan Mundy, give me a frickin' break.
Yeah.
Ryan Mundy, come on. Patrick Peterson, really? He's a geriatric. Like, you can't tell me that's a real solution. Finally, they put some sort of capital in it with the 32nd overall pick last year, which was technically a second-round pick, with Joey Porter Jr. Thank God, right? But I'm so sick and tired of hearing the complaining about never having a good secondary and then never doing anything legitimate about it. Like, for example, Cooper DeJean's probably going to be there in the first round. I would 100% be down if they took Cooper DeJean in the first round. If JPJ is gone, the Jackson Powers Johnson, the new era JPJ. So I would go center number 1. I'd go DB 2. I would absolutely go with offensive tackle 3. I'd go wide receiver 4. I would go offensive tackle 3 and wide out 4, because if I have to see Dan Moore Jr. try to play left tackle again, I'm also going to pull my hair out and punch somebody in the head with it.
I think that's fair, but I think receiver has to be a very stressed, important issue to go
Absolutely,
address.
but like you said, I think there's so much value in the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds, and the Steelers have shown the propensity to be able to draft wide receivers well. Antonio Brown, late round. Hines Ward wasn't the most highly touted player. Deontay Johnson late. George Pickens was a second rounder. Like, they've shown the ability to draft and develop receivers really well. Yes. I've always said, it's like, if you consistently draft receivers well, or any position well later in the rounds, why would you not stick to the formula that's worked for you?
Yeah.
Like, clearly DB's a problem. Go get the most talented DB. Clearly center has been an issue outside of Marquise Pouncey. Go address it early. Like, I think if you're good at late round stuff, stick with that.
I just think center's
number 1.
Center, you have to
Absolutely.
You have to go get that now.
You then said what? Wide receiver, then tackle, then DB?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no. I don't know. Okay. Well,
either way, you're still getting what you need. It's just different order of work.
Okay, now one more question. I know we're running late on time, but if you had to, okay, let's phrase it this way. Let's start with question number 1. Do you think Russ starts the entirety of the season? And if not, what week do you think Justin Fields takes over?
No, in week 7.
Wow, that's a lot earlier than I thought. Wow. See, and I think this depends on, we'll have to reevaluate this when we get the schedule. I'll go a little bit later. I think it's going to be week 11.
Okay.
And then I think he's going to be really bad, and we're going to go back to Russ.
You think?
In week 16.
What do you think? Okay. So
that's right now.
Give me a season play-by-play. We start with Russ.
Okay.
How does it look? Week 1.
Not bad. Yeah. I think he'll be fine. I think Russ will be fine. So what? I have Justin Fields starting week 11, or just let's say the 11th game, and let's say they've played 10 games already. I think they'll be 6-4. I think Russ will be slightly above average, so we'll say averaging 210 yards a game. He'll have in 10 games 14 touchdowns, 7 picks, 2-1 passer rating in the high 80s, low 90s. Good enough, but I think you're going to see the last couple games of that 10-game stretch, he's going to be worse. I think those stats are going to be front-loaded. of those 10 games. And then I think Fields will come in, look good first game, look decent second game, bad. Russ will take back over.
Okay. And then from there, I know this is like
I think they'll miss the playoffs.
Shot predictions. No. But then what do you do with Justin Fields if you see that? If he doesn't really show you much promise and you take the starting job away from him towards the end of the season, what does that say next year?
You see if he wants to sign for a low, and if not, say bye.
And go draft someone.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to hang with Russ for too much longer.
No.
Russ is a 1 to 2 year solution.
Right. Yeah.
He's a bridge guy. Russ is a bridge guy.
Yes. And if the bridge is to Justin Fields, then that's fine. But if he comes in and plays like garbage, well, then it's a bridge to somebody else.
Well, and I think at least the Steelers have shown signs that they're not completely stuck in their ways to it's about the Steeler way and pride and tradition, because they got rid of Kenny. And
I was just about to say, can we applaud Kenny Pickett? He did the most important thing in Pittsburgh sports history.
He broke the stigma.
He sucked so freaking bad.
But we got him out.
They said, we're going to change how we've done business for, 78 years now? He was that bad that they said, you know what, we got to completely flip this on its head and move off a first-round pick quicker than we've ever had. So, Kenny, we applaud your effort, even though you were not a very good professional quarterback. So thank you for that. Much appreciated. And your legacy will live on in Steelers legend for, if not anything, that.
Yeah, go have fun in Philly, you freaking Jaguar.
Ooh, Jaguar. Fighting words. Guys, that was the issue. I really appreciate you stopping by. Make sure you check back in next week. We'll be releasing another episode on Thursday. If you missed it, we'll have these videos cut up all separate. So go check out the full episode, the clips, the TikToks, the shorts. Go check out the social medias. Make sure you come back next week. That was the issue.